Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalam O Alikum, dear student. Welcome to my YouTube channel Learn with Azam. Today we will discuss about new syllabus Physics SSC2 National Book Foundation Unit number 11. According to the unit number 11, this chapter consists of sound. Now, today we will discuss about SLO base according to FBISC requirement exercise question as a comprehensive question. Today we will discuss about question number 4 to 6 in part 2. In previous part 1 we will discuss the question 1 to 3 and today we will discuss question number 4 to 6. In comprehensive question number 4, what is the different what are different characteristics of sound? Define each of the characteristics of the following. Now here first of all answer loudness. Loudness the greater of the sound energy. So louder is the loudness of sound. So we can write that the loudness is depend upon the amplitude. In loudness, we can say that loudness is directly proportional to square of amplitude. In this topic, we will discuss about the characteristics of sound and discuss the loudness, pitch, distance and etc. that are characteristics of sound. First of all, we will discuss about loudness. Loudness, the greater the sound energy, the louder is the sound. So the loudness depend upon the amplitude of sound wave. So for explanation, the loudness of sound enables us to distinguish between a finite and loud sound. So loudness depends upon the following factors. First of all, the area of vibrating body. In this loudness, the larger the vibrating area, they will produce the large amplitude and large amplitude produce the large loudness. So larger the area of vibration, larger will be the amplitude of sound produced by it. So we have distance from the source of sound. The loudness of sound increasing or decreasing at the distance between the source of sound and the listener distance decrease or increase respectively. So if the distance between listener and the loudness of source is decreases when loudness is increases. If the distance is increases, loudness is decreases. So these are inversely proportional to each other. We can say that distance is inversely proportional to loudness. If distance is increases, loudness is decreases. Loudness is increases. And if distance is increases, loudness is decreases. So both are inversely proportional to each other. Now the next factor of this material through which sound is traveling. Amplitude of sound wave is different in a different material such as water and air. For example, a drum produces loud sound if its membrane is stick the strongly. This is because the vibrating bodies start to oscillate with the great and large amplitude and therefore the sound is produced also have a large amplitude as the result of sound is louder. So if the pitch of sound is the characteristics of sound by mean of which is a shrill sound or disjunct between grave sound. So this is an other property explanation of pitch. The pitch of notes depend upon the frequency. Pitch is directly proportional to frequency. If frequency is increases, then pitch is also increases. So here we can say that high pitch notes a high frequency and short wavelength, and a low pitch is low frequency and a long wavelength. So we can say that these are dependent. For example, the sound is produced by a man, dog and frog and etc. have a low pitch, whereas the sound produced by a woman, bird, cat and etc. are the high pitches. Pitch is like a color in a light. Both depend upon the frequency. Now, what is meant by quality? The properties of sound by which two sounds of a same loudness and pitch are distinct between each other. This is called a quality of sound. For explanation of quality with the help of quality of sound, we can distinguish between the sound of one instrument from the sound of another instrument, although they have the same pitch and loudness. Now we have, for example, when a piano and a flute are made to produce a sound of same loudness and same pitch, then we can easily distinguish between all the sound of piano and flute. So this is called the quality, that is distinguishing between the two sounds have the same frequency, same pitch and same loudness. Now we will discuss about question number 5. In question number 5, what is the pitch of sound? How it is related with the frequency of sound. Now in this question, pitch of sound is a characteristic of sound by the mean of which is shrill sound can be distinguished between grave sound. So the pitch is not depend upon the frequency of sound wave reaching the air. Here we can also say that pitch is directly proportional to frequency. If frequency is increases, then pitch is also increases. Or pitch is decreases, then frequency is also decreases. We can also say that these are directly proportional to each other. But if pitch is increases, then wavelength is decreases. And if pitch is decreases, then wavelength is increases. We can say that a high pitch notes have a high frequency and short wavelength, but a low pitch notes have a low frequency and a long wavelength. So this relation shows that these are directly proportional to each other. And we can also say that the sound produced by a man, dog and frog or etc of a low pitch, whereas the sound of produced by a man, bird, cat or etc of a high pitch. Pitch is like a color in a light. Both are depend upon the frequencies. So we can say that a high pitch of sound corresponding to the high frequency sound wave and the low pitch sound corresponding to the low frequency of sound wave. We can more explain in this diagram. We can see that here high frequency wave have a high pitch and low frequency wave shows a low pitch. First of all, we can read in detail the diagram below. Two pressure time plot, one is corresponding to the high frequency and high pitch of sound and other is a low frequency or low pitch of sound. The human ear capable to detecting the sound wave with a range of the frequencies ranges between approximately equal to 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz, or in other words we can say that the human range of frequency is 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. Any sound with a frequency low, the audioable range of hearing less than 20 Hz is known as infrasound, and any sound with the frequency above the audioable range or hearing range that is more than 20,000 Hz is known as ultrasound range. Here in this diagram, we can see that here along the y-axis take a pressure and along the horizontal plane or x-axis take the time. Along the x-axis taking the time, we can see that in this diagram, high frequencies shows. These high frequency wave shows the high pitch of the period. So here we can see that the frequency period is this, or also called this is a wavelength. Here this wavelength is a shortest wavelength. When high frequency and high pitch wavelength is a low. In other diagram, horizontal axis is time and vertical axis along a y-axis take a pressure. So we can see that this wave shows a low frequency wave. In a low frequency wave have a low pitch, but wavelength is increased. So when low frequency or low pitch, then wavelength is increased, and high frequency and high pitch wavelength is decreased. Now the ability of movement to the pitch associated with the frequency of sound by the imaging upon the air. Now a sound wave traveling through a air or longitudinal wave and that have high. So we can say that this is the low pressure, that disturbance of the particle of air to given the frequency of the air, has the ability to detect the frequencies and associate them with a pitch of sound. So in this question we can see that pitch and frequency both are directly proportional to each other. But when frequency and pitch are increases, wavelength is decreases or short. And if the pitch and frequency is increases, then wavelength is decreases, and both are decreases, then wavelength is increases. So low frequency have a high wavelength and high frequency have a low wavelength. Now in question number 6, what is the quality of sound and how are we able to discerning between the sound which have the same pitch and same loudness? So we can say that sound may be generally characterized by a pitch and loudness and the quality. So discerning between the two sound depend upon the quality or timbre. So describe those characteristics of the sound to allow the air to distinguish between the sound of the same pitch and same loudness. So quality of the journal distribution that have distribute the characteristics of tone. So quality of sound is a characteristic which is distinguishing between the two sounds having the same loudness and same pitch, but emitted by the two different instruments. Even if the sound of two objects having the same frequency and similar wavelength, but they have different. For example, the sound produced by a glitter and a star. They have different instruments having the same loudness and same pitch, but they have a different quality. So we can distinguish between in both quantities. Now we can say that sound of the same loudness will have a same amplitude and the same pitch will have the same frequency. So the quality is help to discerning between the sound wave having the same loudness and same pitch. Generally, we can say that quality is a characteristic of sound which is unable to distinguish between the sound of same loudness or pitch. So tune is the measure of the quality of sound. Quality of sound wave is a characteristic which is help to distinguish between the two same loudness and pitch. So the amplitude of sound, its volume and its loudness is the same. Now we can say that a sound wave is a characteristic by an amplitude and frequency. sound wave having the different frequency and amplitude will have different loudness and pitch, which is help the distinguishing between the sound wave. Now we can say that sound wave can be described by five characteristics: wavelength, amplitude, time period, frequency, velocity or speed. So we can write that wavelength or amplitude, that is also time period. So also the time period and frequency. Now last one is the wave speed, or also called the velocity of wave or speed of wave. Now we can say that there are the frequency, speed and amplitude, two of the main characteristics of the sound: pitch and loudness, which is in the term of determined by the frequency and amplitude of the wave or respectively. So you can clear this answer. If any confusion, contact on my WhatsApp number. Best of